Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Unfortunately, we've got some more not so great news for Call of Duty. We have a few different reports that have surfaced over the course of the past couple of weeks detailing how Black Ops 7 and Call of Duty over the course of the past year has not been doing, well, very good at all, quite frankly. In fact, it's been in one of the worst states it's ever been in almost 20 years for one specific metric. And of course, we all know Microsoft and Xbox took over Activision Blizzard King not too long ago, and that was a major investment, billions and billions and billions of dollars. And their initial reports on how it's gone so far are definitely worrying. And the reason I want to bring this up is to, again, sort of reiterate that I do fear for the future of Call of Duty based on their reaction to what's gone on in the past 12 to 18 months and what's going to continue to go on here throughout the remainder of Black Ops 7 before we head into a pivotal launch with Modern Warfare 4 that, of course, pending any delays, is going to have to compete with the biggest video game of all time in Grand Theft Auto 6. So this first initial report surfaced a few days back, and it's from Charlie Intel. They say Black Ops 7 was the number 5 best-selling game in the year for the US, which is actually the worst performing Call of Duty game in the United States since 2008. And I'm not gonna lie, top 5 is not terrible by comparison. If you're in the top 5 for anything, like, you got to be decently good, right? Especially with how many games dropped in the last year. Now, obviously, it's still just the niche of the US. It's not global sales, but still. Number 5 being the worst it's been in almost 20 years is kind of crazy, especially when you consider where it's available, which is everywhere, quite frankly. Both generations of consoles, PC, obviously they had huge marketing. I don't think it was very good marketing, quite frankly, but they had marketing everywhere for this game. And honestly, they'd made good changes with Black Ops 7. There's just such fatigue around the Black Ops name, especially coming off of Black Ops 6. And they decided to go a bit more futuristic with like the slightly advanced movement and stuff and the ridiculous campaign and lore and everything going on there, that it doesn't scream Call of Duty outright, but when you look at the core mechanics of the game, the style of certain things, it is very much so core Call of Duty. They made several changes that we've been asking for some time, but a lot of that is masked in some of the ridiculousness of the game. So it not being the number 1 seller certainly is not surprising, but at the same time, it kind of is, given the fact that it's the worst it's been since 2008, which certainly is going to sound alarms across the board for Activision and Microsoft alike. Whether it's a pride thing, obviously the business side of things, they want to be that top spot each and every year regardless, and that's why they drop those yearly CODs, sacrificing quality for quantity in some cases, it seems. That is something that is absolutely not going to be ignored going into the next year of COD. They can't have a repeat of, the quote-unquote flop that was Black Ops 7. And you really got to pay attention to the context in which we're talking about this, because Call of Duty is kind of held to a different standard, and it should, given the fact that it's one of, if not the largest game on the planet most years. It's being compared to itself constantly. Okay, how did this compare to the previous COD? How did this compare to the worst selling COD, to the best selling COD? COD's floor is oftentimes 99.9% of other games' ceilings. So it's kind of in a league of its own to an extent. And so it being number 5, like I said, in the grand scheme of things, that's not bad. But it being number 5 and being a Call of Duty title is certainly worrying. But unfortunately, the bad news does not stop there. We also recently got some new reports from Xbox earnings, like in their revenue and everything for the year. And Microsoft Gaming, from October to December 2025, which is when we saw Call of Duty launch, Xbox content and services revenue decreased by 5%. The hardware revenue continues to decrease, just like no one's buying Xboxes at this point, which is kind of crazy. But the Xbox content and the services, things of that nature, Call of Duty now falls under that, being owned by Microsoft and Xbox here. And the fact that a COD launched in this window and it's still decreased is certainly not good. That doesn't make that Activision Blizzard King purchase look good in the eyes of any shareholders or anyone higher up in the company. But that's still not all when it comes to the bad news. Another report on Microsoft earnings. Microsoft's CFO says that Xbox revenue declined 9% year over year during October to December 2025 due to lower than expected results from Xbox first-party titles. The biggest of which is in fact Call of Duty. The CFO basically saying, he's saying it indirectly, saying it without saying it here, that December 2025, October to December really 2025, did worse because Black Ops 7 did worse. They're kind of pushing the blame here on Call of Duty, and that should ultimately hold a lot of the weight there, considering it is the biggest game that they now own, basically, in terms of its larger reach globally here. And like I said at the start, they put in a major investment into getting Call of Duty, putting it on Game Pass, trying to increase revenue and sales there and get more eyes on that subscription service, while also being able to, sort of flaunt that they are the, head of Call of Duty now. They lead all that up and they're in charge of Call of Duty. They have the ultimate decision, and that's like their big game that they're going to have year over year. This is a very bad look for COD, and I'm sure it's a very annoying look for Xbox and those who are pushing for this sale to happen and this acquisition to happen, because so far it's backfired. Yes, you get a major launch out of Black Ops 6, but then you see a massive stumble season after season for the remainder of Black Ops 6. You then follow that up with another fatigued Black Ops title, and it's one of the worst titles in years and over a decade in general. So you are off to a very, very rough start for this entire era of Call of Duty under Xbox, we could call it, right? And why does this concern me personally? Well, you have to look towards what's coming next. A pivotal year, as mentioned, for COD. They have to have some kind of resurgence, both for their, standing in the social space, but especially for their business side. Like, we know the sentiment for COD is down bad. They're gonna want to change that public perception and get back on track with Modern Warfare 4. They can do that very easily by listening to us, the players, appealing to what we want in games, more gritty, more realistic style gameplay, not going crazy with like super ridiculous skins and operators and blueprints and monetizing the heck out of certain things in game, focusing on quality gameplay that's not too gimmicky or anything. Obviously, emphasizing more priority on the anti-cheat, on more balanced matchmaking, team balancing, things of that nature. The blueprint is obvious for what Call of Duty needs to do to succeed. Time is going to tell whether or not they follow the blueprint. They've been ignoring it for several years, seemingly, for whatever reason. But it's so pivotal this year that they have to get back on track. It also happens to fall at the worst time for COD. You have Battlefield 6 still out now, and that's going to continue to see updates and probably rebound a good bit, because Battlefield always kind of does that. Whether or not it's super hype at launch, it usually sees a large player base drop off post-launch, and then it really does spike back up, throughout the years. Like, players do return to Battlefield usually relatively well, and I fully expect that to happen with Battlefield 6 as well. So you have that direct competition going. You're gonna see GTA 6 drop, hopefully, in the same launch window as Modern Warfare 4, so like, they've got to get it right. They probably have to sort of rush it, maybe some, to get it out ahead of GTA 6. Launching after would be a massive misstep for them. So there is more pressure than ever on Call of Duty. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I do worry that because of some of the failures accredited to Black Ops 7, they're going to look at the good things they did of Black Ops 7 and not see them as good things. You look at the matchmaking system, which we still have doubts about full open matchmaking, but it definitely is better than what we've had in a long time in COD. You look at persistent lobbies, you look at the content type and quality and consistency of seasonal updates, weekly challenges, things of that nature. I fear they're going to look at those things and say, hey, the players said they wanted this stuff, we did that stuff, and the game did worse than almost every single COD we've launched in a decade plus. We did all this stuff and the retention numbers were not that great. We did all this stuff, we saw revenue decline during the launch window. Why would we do that stuff again? I'm really worried that that's going to be the mindset of some of the business people from Xbox and from Activision when it goes into approaching Modern Warfare 4. Different gameplay dynamics for that, and then ultimately the post-launch support, the content rollout, everything like that for that game. So certainly worrying here for Call of Duty. Things don't necessarily at the moment seem to be getting better for them when all these reports that continuously come out month after month are painting COD in a not so great light. Hopefully this is the wake-up call that both Xbox and Activision need, though. You've clearly fumbled too many times in a row here. You got to get back on track. You got to get it right. And as I said, I think the blueprint for it is very obvious. It's just a matter of, will you actually go with the blueprint? Will you do what you should do to win back players, to garner more attention from other communities, and get it right? There is plenty of potential to do so, but will they act on it? That is the question. That's also going to wrap things up for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, despite the not so great news for COD, a like rating is always seriously appreciated. It's a great way to help grow the channel. And if you're new here, you want to ensure you're always in the know for everything going on in COD, be sure to hit that subscribe button on your way out. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.